Hi, I'm really glad to be here on Shark Tank. So my idea is for an app called My Binge Alive. This way I can just, tell my subscribers what the 10 best Vin Diesel movies are 24/7 as I think of it, Here's the thing. I'm gonna need $800 million to do it right though. Guys? Anyone? Dang it! So not every pitch that goes on Shark Tank ends up resonating with the famous sharks. A lot of the time, that's really understandable. They get pitched some terrible ideas. Every once in a while, though, a great idea passes on through the show and makes millions without them getting a piece. Some of these ideas, like a folding guitar or a dating app aimed at women, seemed destined for success. Others, though, like soapy nuts and nose filters, didn't seem like they'd be worth millions later on. So let's look at 10 of the successful businesses that the sharks passed on. Some ideas really don't sound great the first time you hear them. The words high-tech doorbell don't really sound like a game changer. Honestly, it sounds like the kind of random thing that your aunt would buy you for Christmas that you never end up using. Once you think about it though, you realize it's pretty ingenious. The tech allows you to see exactly who it is that rang your doorbell, transmitted right to your phone. That means you won't have to potentially endanger yourself by opening up the door to see who's knocking. Not only that, but it basically prevents all vampires from getting an unwanted invite into your home. That's not really what it was designed for, but hey, it's just an unexpected perk. The guys at Shark Tank did see the potential in the idea though. When Jamie Simonoff brought the idea for a video doorbell that would transmit to your phone, the sharks thought it was neat. They didn't think that the niche tech product was quite worth what he thought though. After some haggling, a deal wasn't met. Then, to everyone's shock, Amazon bought the company for a staggering $1 billion. Even Kevin O'Leary admitted that losing out on the opportunity was one of the Shark Tank's biggest blunders. Though he did sort of give himself credit for its success by trying to get in on the idea before everyone else. Because of course he did. That man can spin any conversation into building his brand. Have you ever been torn on whether you wanted to have a burger for dinner or a plate of shrimp? Well, what if we told you you didn't have to choose anymore? What if we told you you could have both at the same time? Some of the ideas that get brought to the tank, honestly, are pretty huge. Others have quite a bit of that small town charm. Sean Davis' original shrimp burger definitely felt like the latter. Who knew that it would expand into a big-time success? The whole thing started with a father listening to his daughter. After a moving production at her school, Davis' daughter declared that she would never eat meat again. And instead of arguing with her, he decided to view the whole thing as a challenge. If she wouldn't eat beef due to poor living conditions of cattle, maybe, just maybe, she would eat other meats. That thought process led him to create the shrimp burger. His small-town success eventually brought him to Shark Tank. Yeah, the sharks loved the taste of his burger, but they didn't really feel like it was as big of an idea as he thought it was. Ironically, the day after his episode aired, the phone was ringing off the hook. His company grew from $30,000 to $5 million. That just goes to show all you dads out there, sometimes it pays to listen to your kids. There are a ton of online dating options now, aren't there? Love is everywhere, from Tinder, Bumble, Match.com, the Binge comment section, etc. So it would be easy not to get too excited for another one. The sharks were actually pretty surprised when the Kang sisters pitched their app, Coffee Meets Bagel. This app wisely decided to pivot from marketing as a hookup app for men to a dating app aimed at women. The logic there goes that if women are using the app, then the men are gonna follow. It has a unique platform that sets you up with people through common likes and friends of friends instead of just physical attraction. So why did the deal fall through? The sisters were apparently shocked when Mark Cuban offered $30 million to buy the whole company. This was the largest offer of the entire series. The sisters stood their ground though and refused the offer. So, how did that work out for them? Well, the company is now worth $150 million. I'd say they made the right choice by swiping left on Mark Cuban. At this point, everyone owns a pair of flip-flops. You can get them for practically nothing. So why would anyone pay for what's essentially just a fancy pair of them? And that was more or less the concern when Lena Phoenix and Steven Sashen pitched the Sharks Zero shoes. The shoes are advertised as being as close to barefoot without being barefoot. They actually brought quite a bit of research into the pitch. According to them, shoes are less support for your feet and more like a cast that needs to be shed away. Footwear isn't always a safe industry though. Sometimes you change the game and other times you end up as a punchline 10 years later like Crocs are now. I mean seriously, why did anyone think Crocs were a good idea? The Sharks were very impressed with the fit of the Zero shoe, but not so much with the business model. They thought that it was very overvalued by the pair's estimation. Well, time ended up proving Lena and Steve right. The shoe company has become a multi-million-dollar triumph since the episode aired. One could say that they really sprinted to success, or that they really outran the competition. Some ideas that come to Shark Tank simply seem like a joke. I'm looking at you, Wake and Bacon. And the Sharks initially thought that that's exactly the kind of product that Joe Moore was pitching with his First Defense nasal screens. The idea seems pretty silly. They're essentially little screens that you attach to your nostrils. He even wore the sticky nostril screens while pitching. Needless to say, he got mocked pretty severely for it. At least he did it first. That is until Joe Moore showed them a contract of $8 million. Evidently, the idea is much more practical in other cultures where face masks are common. Well, the Sharks haggled amongst themselves and made him an offer of $4 million to buy the company outright, but he turned him down. They eventually came to a much lower compromise for him to still own 70% of the company. This turned out to be a great plan because the company went on to be a multi-million-dollar international business. Maybe they screened out allergens and bad offers at the same time. Some business ideas that come to Shark Tank are based on things so crazy they almost seem like magic. Mona Wise and Scott Shields' Eco Nuts definitely fit in this category. The idea is that they have these nuts that discharge a soapy substance when introduced to water. They can be reused up to 10 times and are much more eco-friendly than detergent. Mona even took one of the nuts, dropped it in a tub of water, and shook it until the soap came out. The Sharks laughed at the ridiculousness of it, but they couldn't hide that they were hooked. After a little haggling, the couple decided not to do a deal with the Sharks, and they got away. While Eco Nuts aren't the biggest success story Shark Tank has ever had, they are still around. The company continues to post profits and is likely to grow as the world becomes more environmentally conscious. It's a product that seems like it's from the past, but really is for the future. Do they have a tagline already? Because that sounded really good to me. Have you ever been out to a club or out to dinner and didn't realize until you got home that you forgot your coat? Well, that happened to CEO Derek Pack. Instead of rolling his eyes and replacing his coat, though, he decided to do something about it. He was going to reinvent the CoatCheck system for the 21st century. His pitch was one of the most entertaining in the entire show. He even went out of his way to perform a little dance in the middle of his pitch. The best part though is when he dropped the coat and it was on a leash. That was hysterical. Though his last line was pretty good too. Why don't one of you write me a check and I'll check you into CoatChecks? That's just gold right there. The company continued on, but that wasn't when it hit its big break. You see, the company used a special tech to allow customers to get their picture taken and then come pick up their coats later. Turns out that the tech used for CoatChecks was better than the service itself. So, the company pivoted to Checksology, where it will sell that tech to businesses that want to switch to a ticketless system. This tech is already being used by companies like Uber and even by airlines. The company is still growing today, with more and more businesses eager to leave tickets behind. So when your grandkids live in a ticketless world, they'll know who to thank. Not all heroes wear capes. Some of them wear coats, evidently. Sometimes things get real on Shark Tank. When founder James Martin pitched his company Copa Divino, the negotiations got heated. James was made a pretty good offer from Kevin O'Leary for his Wine by the Glass company, but he rejected it. The Shark then told him that he was going to go buy a $1,000 bottle of wine because he was weeping over the loss. As James was walking away, Kevin referred to him as a dead man walking. This was one of the coldest moments in the entire show. Despite the insults he received during this episode, James Martin had a little glint in his eye that said, "I'll show him," and boy did he. Since then, the company skyrocketed into a multi-million-dollar business in 1 year. In fact, the company was growing so fast that he needed capital to deal with the rapidly expanding inventory. So that's when James Martin did the unthinkable by going back into the Shark Tank. He returned hoping to get a better offer than he got the first time. Despite the tension before, Kevin tried once again to get into business with him. Unfortunately, he gave him another low offer, and James walked away for the second time. This is truly one of the biggest fish to get out of the tank. It's continuing to grow. You can see it in grocery stores across the world. You can almost say it's aging like a fine... yeah, you get it. Look, guys have nails too. While it might be socially acceptable for women to get manicures and pedicures, there's still a stigma for men. One man wanted to change that with his male-targeted nail salon, Hammer & Nails. Michael Elliott had quite the life before he showed up on the show. He was briefly homeless, but he was able to turn his life around as a successful screenwriter. After gaining a nice nest egg due to films like Brown Sugar and Like Mike, he wanted to try something else. It was important to him to be able to create something that was 100% his. That's how he came up with the idea for Hammer & Nails. The men's nail salon got some early success, but he hoped that the show would help him build a company across the nation. Unfortunately, none of the sharks were interested in his $200,000 offer. Turns out, plenty of other people were though. He received several calls from investors who were desperate to get in for that price. It paid off too because the company now has over 100 franchises popping up all over the country. This is basically the best thing to happen to nails since the nail file was invented. Guitar owners know that traveling with their instruments can be a real pain. Whether they're flying with them or just lugging them around, they can be tiresome. And it appears that Kevin O'Leary, he feels the same way. Though it took him years to get into the company that looked to fix that problem forever. Most of the time when someone walks away from the Shark Tank, the negotiation is over. Fortunately for Jeff and John Cohen though, it wasn't for them. Their company, Voyager Guitars, sold the foldable guitars made for travel. It was one of the best pitches in the first season of the show. Yet after a tense negotiation, they walked away. Kevin O'Leary even said that they were dead to him, but it didn't stick. Evidently off camera, O'Leary came to an agreement with him. Now the business is thriving thanks to him helping them score a deal with the guitar company Fender. Not every Shark Tank story has a happy ending, but this one seems to be going that way. Well, those are the biggest successes that bypassed the sharks from Shark Tank. Which was your favorite? Let us know in the comments section down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.